In this video, candidates will continue with Economics Paper 1. This is the past paper that was written in May-June 2021 season. And this time around, we'll be looking at question number 3, which is part of Section B. Section B has 3 questions, and the candidate is expected to select only 2 of the 3 questions. However, for the purpose of us training ourselves for the main exams, which you'll be writing in November, and also for the trials, which you'll be writing in September, we'll look at all the 3 questions. However, again, candidates, please only do 2 questions when you are writing your main exam, obviously, as well as the trials. Now, let's just see what we have in the question number 3, which will be the question we're going to be looking at in this video, and go through it together. So question number 3 is about economic pursuits, and this question has 40 marks, and the candidate is expected to spend 30 minutes, or rather the candidate was expected to spend 30 minutes. However, as I go through the past paper, I'm not going to say it was, but I'll say candidates is expected to do this because I am preparing you for the exams that you're expected to write. And I believe that chances are very high that what you see in the past papers might repeat itself in your trial or in your final exam. So now let us look together and see what we have in this past papers. Question 3.1, answer the following questions. 3.1.1, name any 2 examples of industrial development zones in South Africa. Candidates, please take note that you are expected to provide 2. Even if you know more than 2, please only write only 2 that you have been asked in this exam. So what are those industrial development zones that we have in South Africa? So in our country, we have Steel and Auto, or KOGA. There is OR Tambo International Airport. You can even call it high tech. We have East London Vehicle. We have Richards Bay Metals. We have Mafikeng IDZ, Saldanha Bay Steel, and Dubai Trade Port. So let us make assumption and say you are staying in Johannesburg. If you're staying in Gauteng and you want to recall the industrial development zones that we have in South Africa, think of the big international airport that is based in Johannesburg, and that is OR Tambo International Airport. And then if you are based in KZN and you want to recall the industrial development zones that we have in South Africa, I want you to remember of the area closer to the big international airport in KZN, and that is called Dubai Trade Port. So that is one of the best ways to remember some of the industrial development zone that you can use during the exam. It doesn't matter where you are, then you need to understand that you need to recall this industrial development zone. In that way, you need to find the best ways that you believe you can remember those zones. Now, I'm going to write the one that I would have selected. If I were writing the exam, I would have chosen OR Tambo. The second one, obviously, I would go for would be Dubai Trade. So I would have selected OR Tambo International Airport as well as Dubai Trade Port. And then 3.1.2, how can a public-private sector partnership contribute more to regional development? So now you need to explain, and you need to only provide one point. And the point you'll be providing is how the public-private sector partnership contribute more to regional development. So the PP or PPP stimulates the development of infrastructure in underdeveloped areas. So The triple PPS, it stimulates the development of infrastructure in underdeveloped areas. So that is one of the contribution to regional development. It is to stimulate the development of infrastructure in the areas that are not developed. Right. So now I'm going to write here what I would have said. I would have said that it will stimulate the development in of infrastructure in the underdeveloped areas. Okay. So that what it contributes to stimulate the development of infrastructure in the underdeveloped areas. So that what you are expected to respond in questions similar to this one. And then we're going to be looking at 3.2. 3.2 says start at the extract below and answer the question that follows. So it is very important, candidates, that you need to start at the extract before you can be able to answer successfully the question that will follow. Now let's just see what the extract is about. It is about sustainable livelihoods of township SMMEs towards growth and development. So it's sustainability of the livelihood of township small and medium entities towards growth and development. So now you know that you are going to be asked on questions that are related to small and medium enterprises. Now let's just read the extract and then move to respond to the question. In South Africa, small, medium, and micro enterprises, which is what we normally call SMMEs, have been recognized as a critical driving force to elevate some economic challenges that the country faces. SMMEs in South Africa play a critical role in the country's economy and contribute between 40 to 41% of the country's GDP and up to 61% of overall employment. In this regard, the Small Enterprises Development Agency, which is what we call SEDA, and the Small Enterprise Finance Agency, which is SEFA, plan to implement programs to improve the livelihood of township SMMEs. So now let's look at the question and see what do we have and what do we need to respond to. 3.2.1 identify the institutions that promote small business. Since you are asked to identify, it means that the answer is sitting in the extract above. For that reason, you need to find the entities that are in this extract. The reason I'm saying that is because you are asked candidates to identify the institution. So the way for you to identify the institution is by, of course, looking at what we have on the extract. Now, the institution that we have on the extract that we have above, it is Small Enterprise Development Agency, which is SEDA. And by the looking of that, you know that this is a business or it is an institution. Okay, then you can use that. Alternatively, you can say it's a small enterprise finance agency because that is also the institution that promote small businesses. Now, how are you going to respond? You are asked to only provide one. For that reason, the candidate is expected to only provide one institution. In my case, to save time, I will say right? The reason I'm doing that is because from the above, in brackets, you've been told what is the name of the institution abbreviated. Now let's just look at 3.2.2. Which economic challenge is addressed by small, medium, and micro enterprises in the economy? So now you need now to explain which economic challenge is addressed by these entities. And then that information you can find from what we have in the extract above. So what is it that these small enterprises and medium-sized enterprises are addressing in the economy. So what they're addressing the issues of unemployment in the economy. How do you know that? Because you have seen here that overall, in terms of employment, they are contributing up to 61%. So, in that way, the challenges of unemployment in the economy is addressed by these entities of the size. They also address the poverty and also the distribution of income. They address economic and social inequalities. So, how will I have responded to the question of this nature? I would just say they are addressing unemployment. Just one read, unemployment. You can say unemployment or employment. So they are addressing the issues of unemployment in the economy of South Africa. So that is the economic challenge that this institution are addressing in the economy or in our country. Briefly describe the term employment. Now, this is what you would have learned in class, and this is the time for you now to explain what is employment in your own understanding. So, you need to describe based on what you've been told in class or based on what you understand, right? So, when you're talking about the employment, we're looking at people between the age of 15 and 65 who are willing and able to work, find jobs. In return, they receive wages or salaries for the service they're providing, right? So, how then you would be explaining? So, you're saying employment are people that are between the age of 15 and 65 that are willing and able to work, right? And find job that will subsequently provide them salary or wages, right? So, how would I have explained it if I was writing this paper? I would say employment are people between between age 15 to 65 are willing and able to work and able to work and return salary to them and return salaries return of salaries wages. Right. So basically are people that are willing to work for the benefit of getting the salary or wages at the end of the month or week, whatever is the agreement between them and the employer. Now let's just look at what we have next. How do small, medium, and micro enterprises benefit from the small business support program? So in this case, you just need to state one, right? So you're only going to say one thing. How do you know you need to say one thing? Because you are only going to be provided 2 marks for stating that. However, for the benefit of you understanding the section of economics, I'm going to tell you more than one things or more than one items in terms of how do small, medium, and micro enterprises benefit. We need to see it up. Yeah. So we are looking at the benefits from small business support program. Right. So there are a number of ways in terms of how SMEs are benefiting from small business support program. So they receive tax-free cash grants for investment in the industries. New or expanding business will receive the grants for 3 years, after which the company is expected to be self-sustainable. The provision of business advice and related services, the access platforms which provide the business infrastructure support and the regulatory environment that enable enterprise to thrive. The access platforms which provide the business infrastructure support and the regulatory environments that enable entrepreneurs to thrive. So, how would I have responded here is that they get or they receive tax-free cash grants for investment in the industry. So one of the benefits that they get that I would write if I was writing this paper or have similar question in the exam, I would say it is tax-free grants. That's it, tax-free grants for investment in the industry. So that is one of the benefits that small enterprises they receive from small business support program is to get tax-free cash grants for investment in the industries. Obviously, there are other benefits that they get, and those benefits is that they are provided the infrastructures and also they are assisted on any regulatory matters that they might need guidance on. They also receive some guidances from people who has expertise in their industry to assist the company to strive. So those are the program available today. And now we're going to look at 3.2.5. What are the challenges in implementing broad-based Black economic empowerment? So in this case, candidate, you're expected to provide two. And the reason I'm saying that is because you can see that you get 2 marks and you need to provide 2 points. And the candidate is going to receive a total of 4 marks. Right. Now let's just dive deeper and talk about what are the challenges in terms of implementing BEE or triple BE um, for economic empowerment. Right. So one of the challenges triple BE faces is that the majority of people do not have finances to buy shares, to participate in ownership or shareholding of companies. So what does that mean? It means that Black people can be provided opportunity to participate in certain purchase of the companies or also in buying of shares by the big companies so that they participate in the economy, right, or in those kind of business, but they wouldn't have sufficient money to participate, unfortunately. So that then provide challenges in the companies because they aren't gonna reach the stage of, being able to get there, right? So the challenges that they are experiencing is mainly on the fact that they do not have enough sufficient capital to buy into those companies or to buy shares. And then the other issue of implementing through BE for economic empowerment, it's rural and local communities do not all have access to economic opportunities. So it can be economic opportunities that are valuable. However, people that are staying in the township and the rural areas do not have such privilege to to get to a point where they can participate in those developments, meaning to say they know what is happening in that company in terms of allowing Black people to participate, but they do not know about that because of the area that they are based in. Corruption in the awarding of contracts resulted in few people benefiting from BE. Dur- um, During news, if you listen to the news, you know that each and every day we are told about the issues of corruption and the companies that are providing tenders that are meant to benefit a number of Black people, but only certain group is benefiting. So the corruption is also a challenge in South Africa in terms of ensuring that number of people are benefiting from the BE or triple BE for the development of the economy for all. The other thing that you have is that fronting resulted in many people failing to benefit from the policy. So, what does that mean? It means like some companies will sit down and they will say, you know what, we've seen Ayanda. Ayanda has a skill but doesn't have finances. So, we'll take Ayanda in and promise Ayanda just a small portion of the company so that we are able to gain on the tenders that announcements for certain group but are basically meant for the benefit of the previously disadvantaged people. So in that way, by doing so, they are putting, unfortunately, they're putting the company or the black people in the position of not getting those tenders because now it is indirectly obtained by people who shouldn't be getting them simply because they have fronted with people who have the right skin and color for those tenders. And the last one will be a lack of skills and necessary knowledge led to many black women and youth not being able to occupy top management strategic position in the companies. So there are a number of things that makes this show BE not being successfully in advancing our economy in South Africa. So the issue is underpinned on different areas. One being the issue of qualifications and expertise, the other one being obviously the knowledge of where that can be obtained, and also the corruption and funding is also the biggest issue that we have in the economy. So now let's us write what I will have. As I've already stated, you are required to only provide two, and you know that you are required to provide two because you see here at 2 times 2 means to say candidate is expected to explain only two things. So I'll say the corruption is provided in the table resulted in fewer people benefiting from that was my first point. And the second one to say lack of skills and necessary knowledge. Lack of skills and necessary knowledge. Like, not being able to occupy top management position. Right. So those are the things that I will bring forward because I believe they are strong points that you can have in order to justify the issues that we have in the economy regarding the effective application of probability. Now let's look at 3.3. 3.3 says study the diagram below and answer the question that follows. Candidates, to be able to answer this question, you need to study the diagram. So you need to study the diagram, then answer the question that follows. So we'll do the same thing. We'll study the diagram, and then once you've studied the diagram, then we are going to be able to respond to the question that will follow. Right. So now I have to minimize the size so that you can be able to see on screen properly what we have. So this is the focus area of the Industrial Policy Action Plan, so IPAP. So it is Industrial Policy Action Plan. IPAP 2018-2019. So we have public procurement, special development initiatives, development trade policy, innovation and technology, and special economic zones. So big parts at the top, it's a public procurement. Then on the other side, you have special economic zones. And then we look at the other side of special development initiatives. There's innovation and technology, and there as well as the development trade policy. Let's just look at the questions that we have. Which focus area provides economic infrastructure for industrial development? So, which focus area provides economic infrastructure for industrial development? Right. So, when you look from the top, you need to get the focus area that provides economic infrastructure for the industrial development. So, from the top, from what we see, so that means your answer will have to come from the top, right? So, it is special economic zones as well as special development initiatives. So, you can choose one that you would like. So, in my case, I'll choose special economic zone. Then the answer, it was you can also abbreviate it and call it SEZ. Sorry, SEZ, right? Which is special economic zones. Now we are going to be looking at what follows next. Name the industrial development policy that set out government broad approach to industrial development. Name the industrial development policy. So now we're talking about the policy, right? It is important for you to look at what we asked. So we are looking at industrial development policy that sets out the government broad approach to industrial development. The name of the policy is a National Industrial Policy Framework. Right. So you wouldn't get here, so you need to remember from the class. So you can write in abbreviation or you can write in full. So I'll always say if you forgot the full name and you have not been told not to use abbreviations in the question, always try to save time by using the abbreviation. So in that case, I will say NIP. And then the full name of this is National Industrial Policy Framework. So it's the name of the industrial development policy that sets out the government broad approach to industrial development. Briefly describe the term innovation. So how would you explain the term innovation? So you would have studied that in class. So this is the time for you to use what you have studied in class, right? So when you talk about innovation, what comes to you? Innovation means new ideas. So you bring new ideas into production processes, right? So meaning to say, you know that this is how to make Coca-Cola, right? But making Coca-Cola in that way, it takes more time and it uses more products. And you come up and say, no, by the way, boss, I believe that you can make this production way easier than we are currently doing it, right? So what then we need to do? We need to do 1, 2, and 3. So by doing that, we will be ensuring that we are making things quicker and easier. Right. Now, so in innovation, basically, it is a incorporation of new ideas into production process. So what I will say, it's bringing new ideas into production process. So it's basically bringing new ideas into production. So that's basically what it means, right? And then how does industrial development promote entrepreneurial in the economy? So how does industrial development promote entrepreneurship in the economy? So here you are going to provide 1 point. And how do you know that? Because you're only going to be given 2 marks. So it is very, very important, candidate, to understand that the marks that you are given are giving you an indication in terms of how far you need to go in terms of answering. So if you're given marks like this, then you know that you are expected to only provide um, how 1 point, one explanation, one reasoning. So in this case, now you're going to say you're going to have to respond with only one. You know that when you go through the solution together, I'll give you more than one. And the reason I'm giving you more than one is because I want you to be prepared for the exam. In case they ask you more than one, now in this case, let's say for the exam, they ask you two, or they say 4 marks, then you know you need to provide two. So now, how does industrial development promote entrepreneurship in the economy? It encourages entrepreneurs to exploit the world economy to trade and acquire knowledge. So entrepreneurs, they can exploit the world economy to trade and acquire knowledge. It boosts improve innovation and technology. It motivates entrepreneurs to establish large-scale production. Right. So since you are only required to provide one, so what I will say, or how I would have responded to questions of similar nature, or how you expected to respond in the exam should the same question come up, you say it motivates entrepreneur to establish large scale production. So how do you say it? Motivate to establish large scale production. Or how you would have answered in the question of similar nature. So it's to say, motivate entrepreneurs to establish large scale production. Now let's just look at the question that follows. What are challenges faced by industrial policy action plan? So what are the challenges faced by industrial action police action plan? Again, candidates, when you look here, you are guided by the marks. So you need to provide, in this case, two challenges. And how do you know that you need to provide two challenges? Because you are given two, and then you are going to get 2 marks for each. 1 mark for each challenge, and a total of two. A total of four, rather. So you need to provide two, and each of the challenge that you provide, you get 2 marks, and then this is how we four. So what are those challenges that are faced by industrial policy action plan? When it comes to me, I'll give you more than four. More than two, and the reason we are preparing you for the exam. So the challenges faced by industrial policy action plan, it's a lack of policy coherence and program alignment. The opening up of the economy to a diversity of participants has not happened. Concentration and the vertical integration within sector has increased since 1994, reinforced by high barrier to entry. High private sector input costs like steel, chemicals, and products in the plastic value chain remain a continuing constraint on the competitiveness of SE manufacturing. Continued escalations of electricity cost also has an impact, or it is a challenge faced by industrial policy plan, because the cost of electricity is restricting some of the people to be able to participate in the business. High port charges and inefficiencies are a significant barrier and constraint on the export of value added goods. So now this is also a problem that people are highly dependent on the things that are imported. For example, if you're manufacturing stuff that requires some of the input that are not in the countries, those port charges and inefficiencies remains the barrier or constraint to the export of value added goods, right? So that is a problem. Either you're getting in or you're taking out of South Africa. It is a problem, or it is a challenge. Current structure of the SA economy is ill situated to the creation of large number of jobs and appropriate skills levels. So now we also have an issue in terms of the skills that the people that are supposed to be working on certain industries do not have proper skills or or they're sitting in proper levels to provide those skills. Inadequate state support for investment, upgrading, and innovation, as well as technology, is also a challenge faced by industrial policy action plan. So let's summarize what are the main issues that we have that are the biggest challenge. It is the issues that are happening in terms of import and export. So those barriers are affecting the action plan to be effective. And we're looking at the skills, suitable skills, and it is also a problem in our country. And we're looking at also the support in terms of the investment by the government. It is a challenge also that is faced by industrial policy action plan to be implemented effectively and effective for the country. So what we would have wrote here, then we take what we believe that it's what are the challenges, and that will be inadequate state support for investment, support, upgrading, and then the second one will be obviously we look at the current structure of this economy is ill situated to the creation of large number of jobs. So, it's ill suited the creation of jobs. So those are kind of things that you're expected to address should you have a question of similar nature, right? So then that will earn you a total of 4 marks. You are talking about an inadequate state support on investment, upgrading innovation and technology, and also current structure of SA economy is ill situated, suited to creation of large number of jobs and at appropriate levels. So we're looking at the issues of job creation and also the issues of support and investment in the technology in the SA economy. And then when you're looking down here, so the next one that follows that we need to discuss general benchmark criteria for regional development. So what are those general benchmark criteria for regional development? So in this case, candidates is expected to provide 4 points, right? You need to provide full discussion where you're talking about the general benchmark criteria for regional development. And each and every discussion point that you provide, you get 2 marks, and the candidate's total marks is 8. Right. Now let's first look at this general benchmark criteria altogether. So the general benchmark criteria for regional development is good governance, which requires democratic decision making, transparency, and financial management and control. And the second one is an integrated approach to ensure that the benefit of one region spill over to the other industries and areas. The partnership, the partnership should be built between central government and the private sector. right? So we're looking at building the relationship between the private sector and the public sector. And the reason to do that is because the private sector will come with expertise that the public sector might not have. And for that, they will benefit the entire SA economy. Provision of resources should be sufficiently provided in poorly resourced areas. So, one of the issues that we have that need to be corrected for regional development is to ensure that the areas that did not receive correct infrastructure in the past and resources are now provided sufficient resources so that they are well developed. Competitiveness requires that industries and business established as a result of regional policies should not need financial aid from the government. So, what does that mean? Once support has been provided in certain industries or certain business, they are expected to be able to survive on their own without the support that they receive from the government. So, they should remain competitive without the government support. And the other general benchmark criteria, it is development of people for people by people, right? So you development people for people by people. So that aims to serve people by training, education, improving productivity, and providing essential goods and services to raise the standard of living of the region. So what does that mean? If I train you at doing a job, right? By doing that, I'm enabling you to do your own work or own service without be dependent from other people. And by doing that, you are able to train other people, right? And that's the aim, is to ensure that essential goods and services are provided in different regions. So it is for that reason that I had took my time to say I want to be with you and you do this, so that in future when you get older or when you're in university, you also take your time to say I want to go back to the school that I've started and assist the kids and they kind of right. So I'm training you to train others, and those people will be training others in future. So what does that mean? In class, they'll be assisting other students. Those that had you better, they'll be assisting others in the school, right? And then development from below, it is necessary to concentrate on issues across root levels where most agent human needs exist. It starts by dealing with poverty. Right? Just to look at it in overall good governance, it's good governance, integrated approach, the partnership, the provision of resources, competitiveness, development of people for people by people, as well as development from below. Right? So you choose which one you are able to explain better. Is it good governance? It's integrated approach, partnership, provision of resources, competitiveness, development of people by people, or development from below. And you're expected to provide a total of 4 points. I'm not going to write down here. The reason I'm not going to do that is I don't have sufficient space to do so. Then we move to 3.5, evaluate the use of supply side measure in solving the persistent low economic growth in South Africa. So evaluate the use of supply side measures in solving persistent low economic growth in South Africa. Now let us look at this one. You have a total of 8 marks, meaning to say you're expected to provide a minimum of 4 points. Now, what will be those points that you will be providing, or what kind of things that you will say? Right. So, supply side measures have been successfully in solving low economic growth, right? And how did the supply side measures have been successful in solving low economic growth? Offering incentives such as cash grants and subsidies to enhance support, export promotion, extra private sector investment in FDIs, lowering tax rates to motivate people to work harder to increase their income and increase production level in the economy. They're also lowering income tax rate by may also encourage people to save more, improve availability of loanable funds for investment. Right? It's also increasing labor productivity through better education, training, healthcare savings lead to higher production output. And lastly, when we're looking at these measures, that it promote entrepreneurship, establishment of small business in new industries to increase competition, limit monopolies, and oligopolies. Right. Thus, then let's look further in terms of the supply side measures need to improve in terms of, so where does the supply side measures still need to improve, right? Ensuring efficient and reliable supply of infrastructure services such as transport and energy to reduce the cost of doing business. So now we have seen that the cost of the transport and as well as electricity, it's keep on growing pace that even the people from a disadvantaged areas are finding it so challenging for them to be able to afford the transport to go to work and also the electricity to cook or even do the production for whatever that they are doing. Reducing administrative costs such as inspection and unnecessary regulations by imposing simpler tax and operation regulations. So what are we saying is that administering business or any kind of regulations becoming more and more expensive, and that way it becoming harder for people to also be able to afford those services. So that needs to be also a measure that is put in place to improve the supply side measures. And then privatizing some of the state-owned assets to improve efficiency in service delivery. So what do we mean by that? We're expecting that in order for the supply side measure to solve the low economic growth, they need to think of privatization. And what does that mean? It means that the issues that we have in ESCOM, it is mainly because there is a high number of public sector people that are influencing the decision making, which might not be helping South Africa to reduce the cost of electricity and to ensure that the issues of load shedding are reduced. So, how will that be solved by the supply side measures? Is that they increase the number of the private sector portion that is sitting there at ESCOM so that they bring in the skills that will help ESCOM to reduce the price of electricity from where it is sitting. And then reducing government intervention by removing unnecessary rules and regulation, ensure free market operation, improve market efficiency. So when it comes to government, there's so many rules that are in place, which it is believed if those rules can be removed because they're not necessary, it will help to reduce the burden of the people that are developing their small size business scale. So those are kind of things that you were expected or the candidate will be expected to speak of when it comes to the evaluation of the use of supply side measure and solving persistent low economic growth in South Africa. Obviously, going to state where it has been successfully and where it needs to improve, right? So it has been successful in offering initiatives in lowering the tax or the income tax and increasing labor productivity through better education, also promoting and establishing small business. However, we believe that it still needs to improve, and the improvement that we're expecting is that of privatization, reducing regulation and administration where it is not necessary. So those are kind of things that a candidate was expected to explain, or you will be expected to explain when you are evaluating the supply side measure in solving the persistent low economic growth in South Africa. So this takes us to the end of question number 3. Thank you so much for listening to this part. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as follow me on TikTok. It is Economics 199. You'll see me with the SA flag and then you'll realize that is my page. All the best as you're preparing yourself for the prelim as well as the final exam. And goodbye.